Hello, and thanks for checking back for this month's Entertaining Angels update. Today we're going to focus on the art of truly hearing others. In the New Testament, St. James reminds us that we should be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. I don't know about you, but I often get that a little mixed up. All too often, someone comes into our parish and we're so quick to help them and get back to our task that we miss hearing what they really have to say. And that often means we miss the true message of the conversation. There are two gentlemen walking together down a very noisy and congested sidewalk in a big city. One of the men stopped for a second and asked, "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" came the reply. "That cricket," he exclaimed. "It's so noisy here, how could you possibly hear a cricket?" The first man explained that he, as a biologist, had trained himself to hear the sounds of nature. A few minutes later, the biologist purposely dropped a 50-cent piece onto the pavement, and people all around stopped, bent over, and began to follow the sound of the bouncing coin until it was recovered. The biologist looked at his friend and said, "See what I mean? We hear what we listen for." What are you listening for? Are you listening for the end of the sentence, or are you trying to hear the whole story? Our rich Catholic faith is filled with the beautiful example of holy men and women among the communion of saints who were masters at the art of hearing others. Allow me to tell you about just two of them. The first was St. John Vianney, and he's the patron saint of priests, which is pretty amazing given the fact that he didn't even know Latin and had an enormous difficulty with his studies. God was with him, though, and he became a marvelous confessor. Train tracks had to be built to his tiny village because more than 20,000 people each year would come to hear him and to have him hear their confession. He would hear confessions for 16 hours a day. So great was his ability to hear people, he could read their hearts. Satan appeared once to St. John Vianney and told him that if there were even 3 such priests as you, my kingdom would be ruined. Imagine sitting in a confessional and hearing people spill their hearts out for 16 hours a day. His example inspires me on those days when I have a difficult time listening for even 16 minutes, let alone 16 hours. Blessed Mother Teresa of Calcutta is another example of someone who didn't just listen, but truly heard. It is said that when having a conversation with her, it was as if the rest of the world simply evaporated around her. She focused on each word, all the while running her fingers swiftly over her rosary beads, usually offering a prayer for the grace of attentiveness and God's intercession in the person's life she was visiting with. Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them." Most of what Jesus said in Scripture was direction for us, and this verse from John's Gospel is no different. As people of first contact, we are called to be the hands, the feet, and the ears of Christ. Each person that comes to us is a member of his flock. For some reason, they've heard his voice or felt his call, and it's our privilege to lead them to the Father that knows them. Here are a couple of quick things to help us truly hear God's people. First, hearing requires a connection. So when someone speaks to you, either in person or on the phone, put your task aside and focus completely on the conversation so you will be able to make that connection. Second, before a conversation begins, say a quick prayer for the grace of attentiveness so you'll be able to employ both your ears and your heart to truly hear. Thank you so much for checking in, and may God richly bless you as you continue on your journey to entertain angels.